Good afternoon. Today marks the 75th anniversary of VE Day, a triumphant milestone in our nation's history and indeed in world history. 75 years ago today, our brave American forces defeated fascism in Europe, and through the selfless devotion of thousands of patriots, they saved the world. Over 180,000 Americans gave their lives in the European theater during World War II. And I want to take just a moment to honor their service and their sacrifice. Thank you to all of our veterans. You are truly, truly our heroes. Now, as I move to my next subject, I want to begin by saying this. Look, our rank and file men and women at the FBI are heroes in their own right. They protect this country from domestic crime, and we thank them for their service. They work hard, and once again, we owe them a debt of gratitude. But that is separate and apart from what I'm about to address right now. The FBI exists to investigate crimes. But in the case of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, it appears that they might have existed to manufacture one. As the motion filed by the Department of Justice yesterday explained, the FBI set out to interview General Michael Flynn when they had no predicate for any investigation of any crime. Over the past week, we learned from a handwritten note the true intent behind the FBI's investigation of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. The very day that then FBI Director Jim Comey sent agents to the White House to interview Flynn, the FBI discussed what their intent was beforehand. This is what they said. What is our goal? Truth, admission, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired? These notes, in addition to other evidence, raise serious questions about the handling of the FBI's handling of Michael Flynn's case. Did the FBI confront Flynn with the intent to get him to lie so that we can prosecute him and fire him? Did the FBI manufacture a crime against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn? Federal investigators appeared to paint a target on the back of General Michael Flynn. Kimberly Strassel of the Wall Street Journal laid out point by point the very concerning aspects of this case, and I'm going to reiterate them as outlined in her column over the weekend. In December 2016, Flynn spoke as the incoming national security advisor to the Russian ambassador. This call, as is customary, was recorded by the United States government. They record calls with foreigners. But in a highly irregular move, the intelligence community under the Obama administration unmasked the identity of Michael Flynn, a United States citizen who is entitled to Fourth Amendment rights and to due process. But Lieutenant General Michael Flynn received none of that. The intelligence community was hunting for evidence against General Flynn, evidence they did not find. We learned from newly released transcripts that in stark contrast to what former DNI James Clapper had been saying publicly, and contrary to what he was saying publicly, here's what he was saying privately with regard to Russian collusion. I never saw any direct empirical evidence that the Trump campaign or someone in it was plotting or conspiring with the Russians to meddle with the election. Sounds awfully different from what he had just said 10 days prior in a public capacity. Having found no evidence of Russian collusion, the FBI came up with a new absurd theory that Flynn might have violated the Logan Act, a statute from 1799 that in its 200 years of existence had never been used to convict an American citizen, but it was resurrected in the case of Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn didn't violate the Logan Act. Even the FBI did not think that General Flynn's telephone call provided the predicate for a criminal investigation. In fact, in January of 2017, an internal FBI document concluded that Flynn was, quote, no longer a valid, viable candidate for investigation. Disgraced FBI agent and noted Trump hater Peter Strzok disagreed, texting this, hey, if you haven't closed that Flynn case yet, don't do so yet, end quote. So the Flynn case remained active. This was a good thing for Peter Strzok, but it was a bad thing for justice. It was a bad thing for the rule of law. According to yesterday's motion to dismiss the case against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, it said this, Mr. Strzok immediately relayed the, quote, serendipitously good news to Lisa Page, special counsel at the FBI, remarking, quote, our utter incompetence actually helps us. That's right, their utter incompetence to close the case against Lieutenant General Michael Flynn was something to be serendipitously celebrated. The scheme to manufacture a case against Michael Flynn continued. After President Trump entered office, the FBI's partisan pursuit of General Flynn proceeded under Jim Comey's FBI. Despite possessing a transcript of Flynn's entire conversation, the FBI decided it was somehow necessary to go ask General Flynn what happened on the call, despite having a transcript in their possession. The only motive would have been to, quote, get him to lie. They advised him he didn't need a lawyer present. Imagine that, you're an American citizen. You don't need a lawyer, we're just coming in to have a chat. They didn't inform their superiors at the Department of Justice about their intent to interview Flynn, despite their own attorney at the FBI saying, if we usually tell the White House, then I think we need to do what we normally do. But they ignored the advice of FBI counsel, and they went in to interrogate Michael Flynn. Acting Attorney General Sally Yates, no fan of President Trump, said she was flabbergasted, she was dumbfounded by the decision to not inform DOJ officials who, quote, hit the roof. This is all outlined in a legal document that you can find. Additionally, when the FBI arrived at the White House, they did not even warn lawyerless Flynn about the consequences for providing an inaccurate response. The interrogation of Michael Flynn was not an inquiry. Make no mistake, it was a trap. Even more troubling was the fact that after the interrogation of Flynn, former Deputy Director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, concluded that he, quote, didn't think Flynn was lying. But the case against Flynn continued. We were pleased to learn yesterday that the Justice Department moved to drop the case against General Michael Flynn. Though it took several years, it is encouraging to see that justice finally prevailed. As we move forward as a country, it's important to take these revelations very seriously in order for Americans to have faith in our justice system. If the top leadership of the FBI can target a 3-star general who served this country for 3 decades, make no mistake, they can target you. It's hard to believe that this happened in the United States of America. General Michael Flynn's life was forever changed. He had to sell his home. He faced financial ruin. His family was even threatened with prosecution. But despite all of that, here's what Michael Flynn put out yesterday in his first reaction to the motion to dismiss. If we can play the video, let's go ahead and play it. Don't think we have the video queued, but I encourage you all to go on General Flynn's Twitter feed, and what you'll see is a really beautiful video of his grandson talking about how much he loves this country and how everyone deserves justice for all, and how commendable that is for General Flynn at a time when he was so gravely wronged to say this: I still believe in this country, I still believe in America, I still believe in the principles that make this country the greatest on earth. And in the words of renowned political philosopher Baron de Montesquieu, there is no greater tyranny than that which is perpetrated under the shield of law and in the name of justice. I hope the media will take these questions very seriously, will report the facts. There was heavy interest in the first iteration of Flynn News from many years ago that got 4 times the coverage that the exoneration of Michael Flynn got today. That was a report by Media Research Center. So these facts are important, and thank you very much for those who have taken interest in reporting. And with that, I'll take questions.
Thank you.
Jim, you were so kind on the trip the other day to Honeywell, so you get the first one.
Thank you, Kayleigh, and congratulations on becoming press secretary.
Thank you.
Wanted to ask you, putting aside the situation with Michael Flynn, today the unemployment rate hit the highest point since the Great Depression. What is the president's plan to get this country out of this ditch?
Yeah, you know, this president is the jobs president. This president got us to a place where we had the lowest employment rate in the history of this country, historic lows for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, the disabled, veterans. As the president has noted, and I think this is right, we had to put a stop to the economy. It was a pause. This wasn't some, economic catastrophe that organically happened. it was decided upon by the President of the United States to stop the United States economy because we had to save 2.2 million lives, perhaps more, somewhere in that range, because American lives, that's what mattered most. And so this president, when faced with this very tough decision to put a pause on the hottest economy in modern history, said American lives matter most.